Hello, everyone. My name is Katinka Harshani, and I'm the head of partnerships for Third Academy, a Web3 education collective for people that are launching and growing their careers in Web3. And today's interview is part of a series of profiles that we're doing of people in the Web3 space that we really, really admire. So I'm very grateful to be welcoming Paab from Fayre Labs. Would you mind just briefly introducing yourself, kind of give us your rough career history and kind of how you ended up where you are today?
Hi, Katinka. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to take part in this journey. And hello, everyone. My name is Paab and I'm heading partnerships at Fayre Labs. I'm based in London. I have 10 plus years of working experience in marketing and partnerships. And I've gathered my experience across different organizations, starting with corporates. I used to work in British Petroleum and Shell, covering a number of marketing roles. Following that, I was working as marketing and strategy consultant, supporting SMEs and emerging brands from different sectors, ranging from fashion, luxury, education, real estate, ultimately technology as well. Following that, I worked with Digitfully, being an NFT marketing agency. And at the moment, I'm with Fayre Labs, which is a 360 Web3 development agency for brands and organizations which already have well-established communities. And we help them to activate their communities with Web3. And that is both with helping them to develop their Web3 NFT metaverse strategy and also to develop the assets. We have our own products, tech products. So we have our own marketplace. We have a user activation app, as well as we're building marketing dashboards, which will be helping the brands to keep their eye on currently running NFT campaigns.
Amazing. Thank you. And I guess my first question would be, what made you want to work in Web3? Because it's quite a jump from British Petroleum to the Web3 world.
It's been a journey, that is for sure. And what has taken me to Web3 in the first place was kind of a coincidence. In 2019, I signed contracts with two clients of mine back then working as a consultant. One of them was a L2 developer, and the other one was a language school developing their e-learning platform. And this has opened the whole world of opportunities in front of me, as well as understanding how important technology development is and what great assets it's bringing into the table. And then looking into Web3, obviously, as I started understanding the great avenues that blockchain technology is creating in terms of two main aspects for myself. So one aspect that I truly value about Web3 is providing access to experiences. So people who would normally not have access to entertainment, education, or any other experience we can think of. As we know, blockchain is used across healthcare, finance, and so on and so on. So we're talking about a very broad spectrum of utility. And this access was very, very exciting for me. So that is one thing. And the second thing is providing revenue streams. So Web3 allowing people to monetize their digital assets that they normally wouldn't be able to do and help them build their own financial independence was a great importance for me as well. And hence, I've decided to shift my career in that direction to support companies which have the vision of fostering Web3 and speed up the adoption to help people to transform their lives in one way or another.
Amazing. And your first full-time role in a Web3 organization was Digitfully, right? So what path did you kind of take to landing that position?
I got introduced to a co-founding team based in Monaco and in London. And that was a co-founding team working before in fashion and luxury. And as they wanted to take a step into the whole Web3 space, the first move which they came up with was to create an NFT marketing agency. So it was through a personal introduction that also made me realize how important it is to network and build your network and be active in that network.
Yeah, I think that's been a consistent theme with everyone that we've spoken to, that especially in Web3, opportunities really, really open up if you're able to leverage network and community. So it's really great to see that that has been true for your career as well. And then I wonder, sort of going into that first Web3 role and transitioning fully into Web3 space, what skills and experiences that you gained in your kind of former career working for more traditional brands and companies were the most useful?
I think it's quite a spectrum of those experiences that shaped my experience that I have taken with me onto Web3. I think marketers joining Web3 need to take into consideration two aspects. So one aspect is where the company, the project that they're joining sits in their current growth phase, whether it's an early stage of the project or whether it's a protocol, it's a project that's already well established. And then depending on the phase where they sit and the growth and their ambitions, then of course marketing needs to support different activities and tactics. And here I mean it's either branding or acquisition marketing or retention marketing coming in that order. So for me, it was very important to take out experiences in all of those three areas that I could then bring into Web3. What was very important as well, working with traditional brands, was to truly understand that customer is in the epicenter of everything. The customer comes first. And truly so, I think this is even more important in Web3, to always do the KYC, not as know your customer, but know your community, because community plays the most important role. And I think another factor that helped me in the transition was leveraging the experience in hybrid marketing, as most of the marketing campaigns and companies I would work for before were relying on both online and offline marketing. And I think this is crucial in Web3 at the moment, for us not to forget that it's not only about virtual experiences, about bringing everyone in one sec into the metaverse and neglecting the physical aspect of life. Because this is truly where the real bonding of Web3 project takes place and the real connection with communities. So we need to keep in mind that balance, that both online and offline marketing is still very important.
Yes, that is very interesting, actually. And I think not that many people talk about offline in this sort of context of Web3. I wonder, sort of the other side of the question that I asked, what were you surprised by going into a Web3 marketing role? What was completely different to what you had experienced before?
Yes, before I answer that question, I will just touch on the previous one, as it's surprising. And actually, this is connected to your current question as well, which is one of the main surprises and challenges which I've been facing working with more traditional brands, is the community conversion. I think this is something that is very important and very difficult to achieve, especially speaking to more traditional companies which are not Web3 savvy and not Web3 native. And they rely their business on traditional communities, let's say, physical communities, to call them that way, and traditional brick and mortar business or any kind of business with physical presence. That challenge of converting their already existing fan base and customer base onto Web3, it's quite a big thing to do. And I think this was one of the largest surprises and challenges of mine comparing Web2 to Web3, as when I was working with some of great artists and public figures who already have their loyal fan base, who follow them, they buy their products, they buy their services, and we were helping them. That was still at Digitfully. We were helping them to launch their first NFT campaigns. And actually the conversion was pretty low, because paying a lot of attention and effort into education, which we did almost on a daily basis, didn't really work as we had expected. And I think this is still showing the early stage of the space that we're still in, that of course for us, OGs and experts who've been in the Web3 field for, let's say, 3 years plus. That's what I would call an OG in Web3, like 3 years plus. For us, something starts being reasonable and self-explanatory, but we must remember that for the overwhelming majority of our audiences, it's a totally weird space. And I think this weirdness is just showing in the conversion as well.
And maybe we can stay on that conversion question for a second, because I think that's such an interesting one. Who do you think has done that well? So what would be examples of either Web2 brands or kind of like artists or people with individual fandoms that were really successful in making that transition? And why do you think that was?
It's a very good question. I think at the moment, the brands which have had the most success are really the blue chip companies. And here we could give a couple of examples from the fashion industry, let it be Gucci or Adidas. And they have done it in a very smart way. Yet we need to be aware of it, that they're really playing on the weight of their brand name. And ultimately, the projects which are successful at the very moment, they are either playing that card or they're playing the card of their co-founders. So if one of the co-founders is someone, with great following, with great reputation, recognition, then the chances of success of the NFT Web3 campaigns is much higher than in case of maybe much better Web3 projects that still don't have that following. But yeah, to give the answer to your question, I think regardless whether the campaigns and the products were of good or bad quality, those would be the brands to actually succeed at the moment.
Cool. And I guess from your own experience, are there any particular projects or campaigns that you worked on, either at Fayre Labs or sort of before that you're really proud of, that really shaped your view of actually what works?
I think now at Fayre Labs, we've been working with a number of sports clubs and football clubs. I'm not sure if I can drop any names here, but we've been working with some big Spanish teams. And our approach at Fayre Labs is to use Web3 to activate the communities, which is exactly showing how NFTs and metaverse can be used to activate and to provide real life benefits for the users. So we're not trying to separate the brand's community. We're not trying to distinguish it in two parts, let's say physical Web 2 and virtual Web 3, but we're trying to find that mix, we're trying to blend both of that. And that has been going well, very, very well. For example, in terms of sports clubs that we've been working with, the NFT holders get access to special gatherings with players of particular clubs. They might get jerseys, they might get autographs, signed books. They get access to special events which are organized at the venues of the sports organizations. They get the discounts for food and beverage when they're going to the games, for example. So all these kind of utilities are showing that it's very, very important for people to have some tangible benefits, that we are still we're still far away from becoming fully digital in terms of our experiences. And that's something I'm actually not looking for, that we would become 100% digital. I think that there is very important for us as human beings to maintain that balance between technology and real life, to, not to get overwhelmed with the digitization, everything that's going around us. So I think this physical utilities in the sports clubs has been going extremely well. And I think that kind of brings me as well to another thing, which I found is a big difference in terms of marketing between Web 2 and Web 3, is that in Web 2 marketing, we are rather talking at the communities. We are providing them with certain sets of assets, whether it's visuals or message, or where the roadmap is leading. We are pretty much providing the customer, the communities, with a ready-to-eat meal kind of thing. Whereas being in Web3 communities, we are definitely talking with the community. So it's like inviting, as I've used the food example and the ready-made meal. Here in Web3, you would invite the community to the kitchen and cook with them. And this is I think, a very big difference between Web 2 and Web 3. To engage the community at a very early stage, give them, power, decision-making power, give them the feeling that they are part of this whole project, whether it's through polls, MAA, Q&As, voting rights, embedding all these components. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. for this to happen, even companies, even projects which are centralized, such as NFT marketplaces, they can still use those tools in their marketing strategy to keep the community engaged and excited.
Very cool. And so you mentioned that this is a difference of, Web2 to Web3 marketing, that you're not just talking at someone, you're actually involving them, and it's a conversation as opposed to like a one-way channel. Is there anything else related to Web3 marketing and partnerships that is different that you would highlight that people might have to kind of unlearn as they enter the space?
Whether there's anything to unlearn, that's a very good question. I don't know. I think we all learn as we go, to be very honest. And I think the big advantage of a marketer that walks into Web3 is kind of reinventing themselves. So that's definitely a good side to look at it. I would definitely say that community building exercises need to take the first place, and also rethinking the metrics strategy, which is kind of tied to what I explained before, that, talking at versus talking with. The same it goes for marketing metrics, where, online marketing metrics that you would normally use in online campaigns, such as click-through rates, CPC, CVRs, like the typical marketing stuff that I'm sure all of the marketers know by heart. They're not playing such big roles because, again, we're moving into more qualitative rather than quantitative approach. And the success of marketing is valued rather by the number of wallets engaged, let's say NFT price fluctuation, floor price, and then market fluctuation, how many users, how many community members are actually actively attending meetings, how many are voting. So we're looking more into the nitty-gritty community statistics and metrics rather than overall online marketing tools, which I think is coming in the shadow at the moment.
Interesting. And I wonder, I guess, in making that jump yourself. So we kind of spoke about what works and, how you're seeing that at Fayre Labs, actually this combination of physical utility and a digital community is really successful. But have you made any mistakes that you learned from that have shaped how you now view the Web3 space?
We definitely have. Both at Digitfully and Fayre Labs, same as I've made many mistakes working as a marketing consultant previously. The main lesson, the main learning, I think, from all of those mistakes is to really engage yourself with the community even more, because that conversion, which I've been, preaching about for quite a few minutes already, it's really of the paramount importance. And talking about the conversion and the community itself, it's not only about actually conversion from Web2 to Web3, but if you're looking at your community growth, your Web3 community growth, you need to take into account certain aspects. One would definitely be the size of the community that you're currently managing and the ultimate goal, where you want to go, like what is your assessment, how large can the community get and within what time frame. So one is about the size, which is interlinked with the second element being the growth. So at what pace the community is growing and how can you sustainably manage it? Because we need to remember that, community, as long as we're all being optimistic that it's only our fans, has a certain percentage of, haters, so to say. And we need to we need to learn how to actually get rid of that, unnecessary elements. So unnecessary elements, of course, can be treated in a different way. And I don't mean here, getting rid of the community members who say something against that. It's not about that at all. So again, it's the project politics, what language is being used and what language is being allowed. And to a certain extent, of course, we can agree on different points of view, but if it goes too strong, we need to take measures to manage that community. And if the community is growing very quickly, it's becoming just very, very difficult to keep your eye 24/7 on everything. Not to say that, there are some bad practices of competitors which are purely about sending trolls and haters to your project, just to put some bad light on it. So growth is another element, and I think it's similar to any other business. If a traditional business is growing too strong, too fast, it's creating many obstacles. So size, growth, and then the third one would be stickiness. So what can we do as Web3 marketers to ensure that the community members actually will remain the community members? And this is almost equivalent to acquisition marketing and retention marketing. Once you acquire your customers or your community in this case, then you need to think what extra experiences. And I think here is where the utility and in real life experiences come very, very handy. What can you do to make that community stick? So size, growth, and stickiness. And I think we've made many mistakes. We've learned a lot, working with some of our partnership brands and clients as we were, developing, building, and helping them build their Web3 communities, how to actually manage the community, where to find the balance, and how to engage the community on an almost daily basis.
Very cool. I think you've already given a lot of nuggets for people that are either, currently marketers or looking to get into the space. And so with a couple minutes to go, I actually wanted to specifically ask you, what advice would you have for someone that is looking to land their first role as a Web3 marketer and is about to make that jump? How can they stand out as a candidate before they actually have kind of like reference work in the sector?
It's a great question. I think there are a couple of elements I'd like to touch on. So first one, it's quite self-explanatory, but it still comes sometimes unnoticed that a marketer who'd like to move into Web3 space needs to become a Web3 expert. And it's almost like fake it till you make it. Like you really need to put in those hours into educating yourself and being up to date with the industry developments, with new projects being launched, with metaverse events, celebrities joining in, and Web3 professionals, moving around the industry. So all of this is very important, and to educate, to stay, to stay up to date with the developments. It's probably a good idea for everyone to have like a daily hit list of news portals where we can check what's going on, as well as follow a couple of influencers who are giving great insights on the industry. So, for example, places like nftnow.com, Cointelegraph, obviously, or decrypt.co, they're all great sources of information in terms of the latest trends. I love following Crypto Megan and Crypto Casey, both great influencers with great technical knowledge, as well as being up to date with new NFT projects being launched. So, becoming the master of the knowledge, it's one element. Second element is networking. Networking, and I wish I had realized the power of LinkedIn in Web3 community. I wish I had known that 3 years ago, then probably my life would have been easier as well. So let's not underestimate the power of LinkedIn in Web3 space. LinkedIn is absolutely not only for traditional businesses and blue chip companies with all the senior VPs being on there. I think it's even more important actually for Web3, because this is where the real game takes place. And it's very, very important to be out there, to network, to be active, to sign up in Web3 groups, take part in conversations. Again, start building your network. And the third element, which also comes sometimes neglected, is building your own brand. If we are marketers and we're building brands of the projects and companies that we're working with, and that's all amazing, but many a time we forget to build our own brand. And that's what I've been struggling with as well. And at the same time, it's super, super important, especially in Web3. So somehow linked, to the first and the second point, educating yourself and being active networking, there's also that slight twist of building your own brand as the expert. And I think last but not least, even if a marketer has no Web3 experience yet, because there always needs to be the first experience. And it's very important to portray the message to your future employer or the project you want to join, whether it's a co-founder, what experience, and I know it sounds obvious, but it really takes a bit of thinking, like truly what experiences from your life can you transfer to that particular organization? Because your next boss or your next colleague doesn't necessarily want to hear your 15-year-old career, but they just want to take out the snippets from there, what they see as useful for their organization. So I think bringing in those messages is of a much bigger importance than just downloading all the marketing experience, just finding those sweet spots, that can be easily applicable.
Amazing. Can I squeeze in one last question? I know we're coming to time.
Sure.
Great.
Sure.
So my question really to end this, and it's been a great conversation, was looking forward for yourself. What are developments in the Web3 space that you are most excited about? And what impact do you think that is going to have on marketing and partnerships in Web3?
And this is a great question, Katinka. Thank you for asking this. I am really passionate about the opportunities that metaverse is bringing in to an average person, to an average man in the street. Of course, we're still early in that phase, but I can see it 10 years down the line, what great changes it will bring to our daily life. And it's not only about fashion brands, which are already being very active, in building their metaverse stores for us to walk in and see their products, try it on before we can actually order. Because ultimately, what metaverse does, it improves customer journey, it improves customer experience. And we will be seeing a lot of it in obviously fashion, in sports, in real estate. I know that real estate developers are already building their own metaverses because they want to present what the properties look like before actually making making the purchase. And I'm well aware we're not buying an apartment every day. That it's not about that, but elevating the customer experience, whether it's in fashion or in real estate, or whether it's watching movies. Then again, I know that there are certain VOD platforms which are already developing their own metaverse entities as well, to bring in the VOD into metaverse to create that even more immersive experience. So I think this access that metaverse is bringing to people, improving customer journey and helping people get even more emotions out of the experience is what will be changing the future. And then of course it will have a great impact on marketing, not only in Web3, because Web3 marketing ultimately will become part of marketing mix of any company, whether it's a Web2 company or Web3 company. It will become an incremental element of the marketing mix and improvement of the customer journey. It will be adopted. It will become something more normal, something that we feel comfortable with, that doesn't seem weird to us anymore. Definitely, it will be more attainable. And I mean hardware, for example, Oculus and all kind of hardware that we will need to fully immerse ourselves into metaverse experiences, become the Web3 persona, will become more attainable. And it will slowly become part of our own lives. Same for partnerships. I think ultimately cross-marketing opportunities will become much bigger in Web3 space as more and more brands and organizations will join the space and they will have their own activities within. Then there will be much more room for collaboration. At the moment, it's still quite tricky to manage to close partnership deals between Web2 and Web3. However, when more Web2 companies will get onboarded onto Web3, it will become something more natural.
And I guess you see that kind of front line in your role as a head of partnerships. So thank you very much for, thank you for this. I mean, honestly, I think there's been so much in here for not just marketers, but really anyone that's approaching the Web3 landscape. So I guess as a final sort of sign off question, if someone wants to contact you, who's listened to this video, where can they find you? Where should they follow you?
Thank you, Katinka. It's been a pleasure to speak to you and share my insights. I hope that it will be helpful. Absolutely. If anyone would like to reach out, please feel free to find me on LinkedIn. Speaking of self-branding, probably LinkedIn is the best place to find me. So maybe we can give a link to my LinkedIn profile. It's Paab Prunch, P-R-U-C-H. Just to cut my long Polish surname, I made it Paab Prunch, but I'm sure there will be a way to put the link in, and I'm very happy to connect with anyone who needs some advice.
Great. Thank you.